Hello, welcome to episode 241 of the Craft House Magic podcast. My name's Ellie and I'm coming to you from Norwich in Norfolk in the UK, and today is the 2nd of March. So welcome everybody. I hope you've all had a lovely crafty week since the last time I've spoken to you, and I'm here to share the things that I've been making in the last 7 days. So today I have some knitting, some crochet, some sewing, I have a gadget, I have a couple of questions for the Ask Me Anything section, I have 1 or 2 confessions, oh dear, and I have some information on my shop update at the end of the podcast. And of course there's a little section with Jensen at the end of the podcast wearing something crafty. So we've got a few Makalongs going on the Ravelry group and on Instagram. You can use the hashtag that's in the description bar down below, or you can pop over to the Ravelry group and those are linked in the description bar down below as well. So craft 20 a day, it's working on those bigger projects a little bit each day, and that's going on throughout the year. We've got the Craft House Magic Baby Makes 2023 Makalong, which I said will finish at the end of February, but I will give you till next week to get all your entries in, and then I will draw for prizes next week. I am going to be starting the retro mal for 2023. That's basically if you're knitting with any of my yarns, because they're all named after sort of retro songs, anything you can link to a retro theme, come and join in. It can be any craft. I'm pretty open on what you can join in with. I just love to see what you're making. I just say that it needs to be something that you make by hand, crochet, knitting, it can be sewing, woodwork, anything like that. You need to have got less than half of it finished before you put it into the make-along. You don't need to put finished objects in, but just put pictures in as you go. I love to see the process. So that's going to be open on Ravelry, and you can use the hashtag RetroMal2023. So let's get on with the knitting, shall we? So I've got a finished hat to show you. So I've cheated a bit because Adam's mum knitted this, but I finished it off. So this is the Burrow Beanie by Meryeme Abdellaoui. Hopefully I've pronounced the name correctly. But isn't it a cute little pattern? So I have got another version of this, which Adam's mum also knitted, which is this one. So this one here, let me just show you this one first. This is the 12 to 24 months version, and it is very, very cute. But because Jensen's got quite a large head, he's about 15-16 months now, it does fit him, but it's a little bit snug on the head, and it does fit for now, but I wanted to knit the next size up just to see that how that compared for his head. So that is the smaller one, and then Adam's mum knitted the larger one as well. You can see that I've blocked this version and not this version, but I think it still looks cute unblocked. This version, which is the 3 to 5 year version, which is the next size up, has actually got larger ears if you compare them to the smaller one. And I've got the brim turned up because obviously it's going to be quite big on Jensen, with him only being sort of 15-16 months. But I have tried it on him and it does fit. Obviously there's lots of extra growing room there as well, but it doesn't look too ridiculously big on him, which is ideal because then it'll last. So Adam's mum knitted this for me, and I did all the sewing together. So when you knit these ears, you actually knit separate bits for the inside and the outside for both of those. So I've sewn those together and then sewn them to the top of the hat. So I just followed the instructions to how you sew on. It tells you exactly where to sort of join it in, which is lovely. I think actually if you do block them, they're more likely to sort of stick upwards, the ears, but then again it depends on how sort of tight it is on the head as well. But how cute is that, with little floppy ears. I've used 2 of my own hand-dyed yarns. They're both Aran weight. This one here is my Rain colourway on a merino Aran, and this one inside the ear is If It Makes You Happy. But this one is on a different base than what I stock in my shop. It's one with little neps on, and I didn't really like the way the neps sort of come out of the yarn, so I don't stock that particular base, but the colourway is the same. I had some of this dyed up from another project, so I thought that would be ideal to use for inside the ears. I would have probably done like a paler grey if I'd have got one sort of ready and dyed up, but because it was such a small amount I thought I'll just use what I've got. But actually it does look a little bit like Grogu from The Mandalorian, so he does look a little bit like he's a Star Wars fan, but there you go. So I've turned up the edge on this hat, and I've got one of my little labels sewn onto there. So these are little leather tags that you can hand sew onto your knitted items. And I've got the one that's made with heart on it, because I thought these are perfect for hats, because the writing is all in one direction, so that you can put it on the brim like that, but if it's too long you can then tuck it up and the writing's still the correct way up. So I thought that's really good for use on hats, especially because you want to be able to turn it up. Some of the other versions of the little labels, they're done in the opposite direction, so that they're good for the edge of like a jumper or something that you could wear inside out if you wanted to. So there you go. And I've picked a blue label because I thought it went well with this sort of bluey green turquoisey colour. You can sort of compare the colours to your project if you buy the pack of 20 that I sell in my shop. Anyway, there we go. Those, I think, really finish the project off really nicely. I'll get Jensen to wear this at the end of the podcast so you can see what it looks like on him. I'll pop a link in the description bar down below to the episode where he did have this one as well, because there's no way I'm going to get him to be able to put 2 hats on in the space of a day. Indoors anyway. He's fine putting hats on outside, just indoors he does not want it on his head. So we'll see how if I can get this one on. If not, we'll have to go for a walk and take him outside so that he'll put a hat on. But there we go. So that is the Burrow beanie by Meryeme Abdellaoui, and there's also a size up as well. So there's another size that goes 5 to 10 years. It's quite a good pattern because it goes right from newborn to 10 years. So that is all my knitting that I've got to show you, but I have been doing some crochet. So lots of you keep asking me how have I got on with this, and I have done a bit more of my Ziggy Interrupted wrap, and I have done one section of the little squares, but I have been doing lots of extra squares for the next sections because I wanted to get them all done at once, because I find that these little square bits, they take ages. So I've been trying to do those so that when I've actually done the zigzag bits, it's much quicker to get a finish. So I've got another 2 straight sections of these zigzag bits to do, but I have quite a few of the little squares already done, and I've just stuck them on one of my stitch holders just to keep them together. I find them really useful actually to keep the little squares all together, and they're ideal if you're doing one of the blankets as well, where you've got a lot of squares that you've got partly done and not joined together. So I've done quite well this last week on concentrating, just working on my crochet really, and I really want to get this finished. I was hoping that I would get this finished for the East Anglian Yarn Festival, which is later this month, but we shall see. I'm going to go mad and focus on doing this in the next couple of weeks and see if I can get it done. I'll hopefully be able to take a bit of footage of the show so that those of you who can't make it will be able to see what the show's like. But I've got great hopes because the last one was really good and it's in a bigger venue this time, so that'll be really fun. And the reason why I wanted to get this finished for the show is that I got the yarn from the show last year, so it would be very appropriate. Although I do have a shawl that's finished with yarn that I did pick up from the show anyway, so I might wear that. It's yarn from Fruitful Fusion. But the yarn I used for this was from 3 different dyers. I'd got 2 tonals, this one here and this one here, from Ducky Darlings, and this colourway is called Poison, and they were on 2 different bases, which makes one slightly darker than the other. One was like a merino and the other one had like silk and yak mixed into it. So that's those 2 colours. Then I had this colourway here, which was from the Woolen Witch, and that was called Snail's Pace. And then this lighter colourway here, that one's from the Camel's Yarn in the Love Letter colourway. And I went round the show, I started off with this purple colour here, and then I went round the show, picked these 2, and then ended up going back to Hayley for the darker version of Poison, which I think finishes this off nicely. So the pattern is by Sandra Paul and it's called Ziggy Interrupted, and actually Sandra said to use 5 main colourways, but I couldn't find another one that I really liked that went with these 4 colours, so I've stuck with 4. And her instructions actually say which colours to use for these little squares, but because I've only used 4 colours instead of 5, I just sort of did them randomly and kept auditioning for ones to go next to each other to make these panels with the little squares on. But I love it, it is really nice. And then once I've done the main body of the wrap, there's a little border that goes round outside as well. So the only trouble is with crocheting this is that I find that especially when I'm doing this darker colour, it's quite hard to see at night. So that is my crochet section, but I have some sewing to show you, actually, for once, for me. So I had actually cut this top out in December, and I actually started sewing it in January. I just finished it at the end of February and actually completed it. So this top is the Pearl Cardigan by Tilly and the Buttons, and it is basically a cardigan that is sort of wrap. I'll undo it to show you. And it has quite a loose fit around the bust, and there's a little hole in, well, I say a hole, it's like a buttonhole in the band at the bottom here where the other tie comes through, and it wraps around nicely there. It is a drop shoulder, so the seam comes to here on the top. It's meant to be like that, and you've got a choice of different sleeves. So I've done the balloon sleeve. Now I chose the balloon sleeve knowing that I was going to do this very drapey viscose jersey material, because I think that if it was a heavier material, these balloon sleeves would have annoyed me quite a bit, but I thought it'd be nice to have it to go over a nice dress. Only trouble is I need to make a dress to go with it, because I need a plain coloured dress really to go with all these flowers. So this is the balloon sleeve version, but you can get a straight long sleeve version and a shorter sleeve. I think the shorter sleeve goes to about there, which is they're both slimmer sleeves as well. But the rest of the top is sort of the same design for all of the 3 different versions. I like the fact you've got quite a nice big band at the bottom here, and it does sit sort of on your waist. So for Tilly and the Buttons patterns, I know that I can pick a certain size for the shoulders, and on the waistline I know which size to cut my pattern, because I've got smaller shoulders than I have for the body, because I've made quite a few Tilly and the Buttons patterns before. So I just did that same sort of thing. But I don't think it matters as much, because it is quite a loose fit around the body. It's not supposed to be tight around the bust or anything, but I think that works nicely. The only thing I think I would change is perhaps make these cuffs slightly tighter so that they hold onto my wrist rather than flopping down onto my hand, because I've got this extra balloon sleeve. It wants to go down rather than staying in position. So I think if I made another one in this sort of fabric, I'd make the wrist a little bit tighter so that it would hold there rather than flopping down onto my wrist. But I do really like it. I think though that rather than wearing it with I've got a long vest top and a pair of jeans on with it now, it'd look better with a black dress underneath, and this would be like a cardigan to wear over the top. So I'll give you a bit of a twirl. You can see that it is quite cropped, and if I did have it with my jeans literally go to the same point as they go to at the back, so I'd feel more confident wearing this little vest top underneath, which comes right over my bum anyway. But I love this fabric. This fabric has been in my stash absolutely ages. It is a floral viscose, which is very, very drapey, that I picked up from a shop in Hull. So there we go. This is my Pearl Cardigan. I'm not 100% sure whether I would make one in the heavier weight material, because I think that I'd feel like it was a little bit sort of bulky around the waist and things. So the Pearl Cardigan comes in quite a nice range of sizes. It goes from a size 6 to a 34, and you can buy, I think there's 2 different patterns that you can buy. I actually bought the size 6 to 24 range just because I'm on the top edge of that size, but I do grade to a smaller size on my shoulder, so I need the smaller set of sizes, but I'm literally at the top end of that size range, but I can just about get away with buying the smaller size range. So the pattern says that it's suitable for a confident beginner, but I would say if you are a beginner, I would steer away from using viscose fabric, especially if you've got to do gathering for around the sleeve. It'd probably be better if it was a straight sleeve for you, but gathering on a viscose fabric is a little bit fiddly. So I would say like an intermediate if you have got a very slippy, drapey viscose fabric and you're doing the balloon sleeve. So there we go, that is my sewing section. I have my gadget section next. So I have had a little kit to put in my sewing box for ages. So I thought I'd show the older one, and then I've managed to get hold of some similar to this to go in my online shop. So this is a little plastic box where I keep lots of bits and bobs and stitch markers and things I've had for ages. So this one was gifted to me by my lovely friend Sharon quite a few years ago, and I like to put all my little bits of stitch markers and things all in these separate compartments, and it's a real fun way of organising things because it keeps them all separate, and I thought that was really lovely. I don't know where Sharon got this from, but it's a really cute pink colour. So that one is the one I've had for ages, and then I've managed to find a really cute sort of rounded, but this one's got like a mottled effect on the outside. There's also these little compartments here that I've got little stitch markers in, and then I've got two bigger compartments this side where I can get my snips in, my darning needles, and then a couple of rubber grips that I use to change my needles with if I've got different tips from my higher set. So I am actually going to put some of these in the shop, which I'll talk about in the shop update at the end of the podcast. But I do think having a little storage box like these is a handy thing to have in your knitting bag if you've got lots of different types of stitch markers, so they don't get all muddled together. And it's really nice that the snips fit in there as well. These are the higher snips. This is a kitten version, but there's also like there's also an octopus and a puppy version of these different ones in different colours as well. So it's nice that those fit inside there. That is my gadget for the week. I have got some more colours as well, which I'll show you in that shop update section. So next section is my Ask Me Anything section, and I've got two questions from ladies who've emailed me on crafthousemagik@gmail.com, but you can also drop a question on the Ask Me Anything thread on the Ravelry group, and I'll leave links to those in the description bar down below. So Fee was asking me that she's doing a pattern that's actually knitted flat, but it requires a 40cm long circular needle, and she asked me, why have they said that you need a circular needle for knitting flat? Well, I think that it's probably because if it's quite a wide panel and you're knitting them on straight needles, it's very heavy to knit on, and I certainly would choose a circular needle to knit on a longer stretch of fabric, even if it's flat, so that actually it's just easier on your arms. So you've got shorter obviously tips at the end of your knitting, and then it just, because you're not holding up the whole needle with the stitches all up straight, they sort of drape down and can rest onto your lap, onto the cable, and you can knit backwards and forwards and have that weight onto your lap rather than on your wrist. So the next question is from Catherine. She was saying that she was really worried about superwash wool stretching after it's been worn, and that she's knitting socks. So I would say, especially with sock knitting, I always knit socks so that there's negative ease. So negative ease just means that you're knitting a slightly smaller circumference than the circumference of whatever it is you're knitting for, like your ankle, so that it sits snugly against your leg. And if there is any give in that wool, if there's any stretching in that wool, it won't matter so much because it is snug anyway. If you're really worried about superwash stretching, if you go for a yarn that isn't merino, it will stretch a lot less. So if you've got those BFL or fibres that are non-merino and they're not as soft and drapey, you will get less stretch. If you do swatch your knitting and actually wash the swatch, you can see how that yarn reacts to the washing and how it reacts to being blocked as well. And I think actually if something stretches a lot during blocking, that will tell you whether it will stretch a lot during wear as well. So I hope that makes sense to both those questions. So the next section is confessions. I've been very naughty. I've gone a bit mad lately with buying fabric, But like I always say though, jersey fabric does not count in your stash. Oh dear. So I was just innocently looking on Instagram and I saw that my friend Sally from You and Me Mabel had some jersey fabric, and I thought, oh my goodness, I cannot not buy this. This is a Dashwood jersey. If you look closely, it's like a very dark blue teal background with some beautiful flowers on. So this is a stretchy cotton jersey fabric, and it's a Dashwood Studio one designed by Susan Driscoll. You can see on the selvage there, and I just thought I have to have this. And also I thought, oh, it's nice to support a small business, so I can justify myself purchasing a metre for this myself. So I purchased a metre because I thought that would be really nice to make myself a t-shirt. And on my Make 9 list of sewing this year, I haven't actually shared my Make 9 sewing because I felt so guilty that I'd got so many things on my list for knitting that I thought, oh, probably won't get around to a lot of sewing. Plus Jensen takes up an enormous amount of time, so I've kept it a secret. I may well reveal my Make 9 list if people want to see it, but on that list are some t-shirts that are jersey t-shirts, and I thought, well, I could use this to sew up one of those t-shirts, so I feel less guilty if I've got a plan for it. But there are some really nice pink and coral pink little spots on there which I just thought were really lovely, so I had to have that. And I thought, oh, it would be such a shame not to purchase something else if I'm going to pay postage, so I might as well just buy something else as well. So I've had my eye on this for a while actually. I'd seen this before and I thought, oh, I'd really like to make myself an apron which I can wear around the house when I'm doing my sewing. Got two nice big pockets at the front there, and this pattern is designed to do lots of little personalised embroidery on it, but I'm going to see how it goes. I might do it in a sort of printed fabric and then do some stitching on it as well, but we'll see. But it's basically the actual design of it, which goes, it looks like a dress and then crosses over at the back to form the apron. I just thought it's a brilliant idea, so I thought that would be really nice to have one around the craft room, so I had to purchase this as well. But because Sally's so kind, she also sent some fabric to make something for Jensen as well. And this is actually the same range of fabrics by Dashwood by Susan Driscoll, and it's a really, really gorgeous wiggly pattern, and it's absolutely lovely and perfect to make Jensen something. So I'm going to get those two in the wash so that I can get something made up for me and Jensen. And actually I think it goes together quite well, so we could coordinate with our similar sort of colour scheme there. So thank you ever so much, Sally. And she not only sent me that, but she also sent me a gorgeous calendar. And I cannot believe how really nice the paper is on this as well. So it's a quilting theme calendar, which is by Riley Blake, and there is really lovely blocks on there, but this is the most beautiful paper, and I'd be tempted to buy one of these next year actually, because they've got some really nice, not only prints, but it's beautiful thick paper, sort of card really, very strong. But thank you ever so much, Sally. And Sally has really, really kindly given us a discount code for her website. So this discount code will run until the end of May, so make sure you go and use it and have a look at the lovely fabrics that she's got in her shop. I have purchased fabric from her before. I think it was one of the orders I made was a gorgeous advent calendar panel. She does all sorts of beautiful fabrics. I think everything in there is my taste. So I would buy everything from her shop. So it's definitely one that I'd recommend for you to go and have a look at. I know that my local quilt group, I was talking about Sally's shop to them, and they'd already heard of it actually, and she's only a small business, so it just goes to show how lovely customer service is for small businesses, and how nice it is to support small businesses with fabric purchases as well. So I'll pop Sally's link and the discount code in the description bar down below, but the discount code is CraftHouse10. That's 10% off Sally's shop, and that's You and Me Mabel. So thank you ever so much, Sally. So that is all of my naughty confessions, but I got sent a beautiful coaster by a lovely lady called Sarah, and she's actually cross-stitched this for me. How lovely is that? I know how long cross-stitch takes as well, and also it's got yarn and cats, which I love both things, but isn't that sweet? Really lovely cross stitch. It's in one of those coaster containers as well, so I can have it while I'm drinking my cup of tea, or mainly hot chocolate really. So thank you so much, Sarah. What I'll do is I'll link to Sarah's Instagram account, and you can see all her other lovely cross stitches as well, so you can go and have a look at what she's made. But thank you ever so much, Sarah. So my next section is shop update. So I've mentioned before that I've got these little boxes to carry your notions in, but I have got a few different colours of those. So I've got turquoise blue, which is my favourite. I've got a sandy colour, and they're all these sort of mottled texture on them. I've got like a yellowy green, and then I've got a pink, but I can't hold them all at once. There we go, that's all of the 4 colours that I've got, and they're all the same inside to carry all your little knitty notions in. So those are going in the shop. Again, I'll quickly show you what I've got in mine, but obviously they'll be empty when you purchase them. I just wanted to show you that you can get those little snips inside in one of these larger compartments, and also the little rubber grips that you use for gripping the needles to change those needles as well. So I've got that one's full, and then obviously if you look at an empty one, it looks like this. But the colour that's on the outside you can see through the inside as well. It's got a little clasp on the outside to keep it shut. I have got some new stitch markers, and these are for sort of larger needles, and they go up to 9mm. But how cute that they've got little cat ears. So they come in a set of 10 smaller and 5 larger little stitch markers, but they go right up to, you can get 9mm needles through those, so if you use a lot of thicker yarns they'll be really perfect. I have got a new needle gauge, which is by Knit Pro Mindful Collection as well, and it comes in a little bag. Obviously you've got all the different needle sizes there, going from on one side you've got the millimeters, and on the other side you've got the American sizes, US sizes, which is handy, going from a UK 1.5mm to 8mm, or US 000 to a size 11. So those are going in the shop. They've also got these cute little zipped bags. So these would be ideal for a small knitting project like a sock or something. They're a little zipped bag with a little zip pocket on the inside as well. I've got a box bottom, and they're just calico, but they're quite a nice quality actually, with a nice little zip pull as well. And not only do they come with a bag like this, but that bag actually comes inside a bag as well. So it's a drawstring bag. It just pulls from the one side. So you're basically getting 2 bags for the price of 1. And it's also got Mindful on the front of it as well. But I've also got some opal yarns. Now these opal yarns, I've got 6 new colourways going in the shop, so I'm going to put them on my coffee table and take you along the line. Otherwise it's going to take me ages to talk about each of the individual colours if I hold them up here, and you'll be able to see them better as well on the coffee table. So these are the new Opal Beauty range, which have got Edelweiss and vitamin E extract in them. It's supposed to be good for your skin, and they're sort of the premium range of the opal yarns, and this is the new colourways. So you can see on the ball band that's what they're going to knit up like. So these are quite distinctively stripes compared to some of the other opal yarns. This one is Composure, Energy, Ice Bath, Relaxation, Herbal Fragrance, and Steam Bath. So that is the full range of this particular set with the Opal Beauty, with those extracts in. And I've got 2 colourways of the Country range. Now these aren't so distinctive in terms of stripes, but I thought that the little pops of colour that are in these 2, I really loved them. So this one is called Saloon, and this one's called Flame Warm. You can see the sample image on the back. So they knit up quite similar, but I love these colours, and actually those 2 I like together as well. Those 2 will be in the shop tomorrow as well. There were other yarns in this range, but I wasn't that keen on them, or they looked quite similar to some other opals that I've already got in the shop. But these 2 will be in the shop tomorrow at 7 PM GMT on the 3rd of March. So there we go. Over to you, Jensen, now to see whether that hat fits nicely. So Jensen wouldn't put his hat on inside, but you like to wear it outside, so we've come for a little walk. So is your head nice and cosy? I think those ears are so cute, and I like the way the little tag sort of finishes it off. You can see the top of his head. You've got the decreases there. He's having a little nose into the woods there. But I think that'll be nice because he's got the extra room when his head does grow to pull this down, because it's turned up, even though it's a bigger size. Yeah? Is it nice? Do you like it, Jensen? Yeah? Thank you very much for modelling. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I shall see you in next week's video. Bye!